If you're a beginner in Jiu Jitsu, you need to learn these 5 mount escapes. We're going to get started here from the bottom of mount. Max has me in a mounted position. First and foremost, before I do any kind of escape, I need to make sure that my body's in the correct position. And what do I mean by that? I don't want my feet just straight and my hands out and laying flat, right? I can't escape mount like that ever. So I'm going to start with my knees bent and my elbows in. And what do I mean when I say elbows in? I want my elbows physically inside here of my partner's thighs like this, so that if Max tried to scoot his hips up high, my elbows can block and keep him from sliding up high and keeping Max's hips over mine. Okay, we'll get into this a little bit later, but if he slides up high under my armpits, he's not on my hips anymore and his weight is much heavier. Come back. So we'll start here with our elbows in. Escape 1, trap and roll. Okay. A trap and roll is going to be the first escape that you learn at white belt. It is the easiest escape. It's what we teach children on day 1 of jiu-jitsu. Why? Because it's easy, simple, and effective. We're going to start with our feet close to our butt. My head's off the ground. My elbows are in. As my head goes down, my hips are going to come up. And you'll notice Max's hands come to the floor. And now I need to start trapping Max's arm in some way, shape, or form. I like to just control hand over hand, collapsing Max's arm at the elbow, okay? Some people prefer an elbow grip and a cross grip here. You'll even see some people talk about overhooks. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, we're just looking to control the arm in some way, shape, or form. My left foot is now going to step over Max's foot. So I trap one side of his arm, one side of his leg. And what I want from here is to now bridge up and over my left shoulder. Notice I'm going to draw my head to the right first to create a little bit of space for Max to fall into. And as I elevate my hips, I'm going over. I'm going to look over my left shoulder here and bridge up into guard. Now I control the hips and we've escaped the position. Understand, when you're using a trap and roll method, just without you for now, Max, my first initial step is to create the highest bridge that I can. If my feet are far away from my body, my bridge isn't going to be as high as if I have my toes close to my butt. Look how much higher I can make that bridge, okay? Once I make the bridge, I get the arm. I control, and then I trap the foot. Once the foot is trapped, I'm not log rolling over my side. I'm creating a strong bridge. And the way that I do this, again, is by moving my head slightly to my right, if I'm bridging over my left shoulder, elevating my hips, looking over my left shoulder, almost like I'm going to kiss the floor over my shoulder, and bridging over to my knees here. Okay, so one more time with my partner. We start in this mounted position. My elbows are nice and tight. My feet get close to my butt. As my head goes down, my hips come up, and I control in some way, shape, or form. I never reach, okay? Here, my elbows are still tight. In fact, my left elbow's still in. I'm going to trap Max's foot, and as I move my head away, I bridge up, 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 and over, controlling the hips and finishing in the guard, okay? Though trap and roll is an easy escape, you'll see in just a minute, it can be a little bit tricky with a partner who starts to have some good offensive mount attacks, and we'll get into why it's going to be important in just a minute. Escape 2, the elbow escape. Elbow escape is going to be a position that follows you from white belt to black belt. Really, all these techniques are, but to be honest, if your elbow escape isn't perfect, it's going to be very hard to escape somebody with a high level to escape their mount. So I need my elbow escape to be perfect, okay? How do I start to elbow escape, and why would I elbow escape? Max has me in mount, and a minute ago we talked about him from this upright position. My elbows come to the inside, I bridge, and I get his hands down. But what if I can't get Max's hands down? What if I'm bridging and he's just kind of leaning back? Okay, that might be a white belt position. I start to elbow escape. But worse, what if Max starts to cross face me here? And now I feel like I can't even control his arm. And now I'm just kind of stuck in this position. What we're going to do is we're going to make a frame, kind of like a box frame here. And I'm going to make this across Max's hip. It's going to look like this. I'm going to take my right arm across Max's belt line, and I'm going to cover it with my left hand. I need to make sure that my left elbow stays on the inside, because obviously if I do this, Max's knees start to slide up, and now we find ourselves in deeper trouble. Come back. So my elbows are in. I bring my right hand to Max's hip, and my left hand covers. And now what I'm going to do is bridge just to my left shoulder. I am not hip escaping back. We'll get into this in just a second. But I'm bridging and turning. And if you notice what I do here, I invert my left knee to the inside. So my knee was here. When I start, it's up. When I get to my side, my left knee drops to the inside of Max's feet. Okay? So from the position, if Max has a crossface on me here, look, he's smushing me. I can't bridge him off. My right hand makes this frame. Look how it sneaks through to his hip. My left hand, elbow doesn't come out, stays in, and I bridge as I invert that left knee. Rotate just a hair here, Max. Now I'm on my left shoulder. My right foot's still posted, but my left knee is down. One thing that I like to do on a knee elbow escape, I like to bring my right foot over first. And what I like to do is fish Max's foot over my left knee. I move into quarter mount. From here, I now use my left elbow to push as I bring my left knee up to connect the two here. Once I have this knee-elbow connection, now I'm going to start turning into half guard, and we can either play underhook or frames. For the most part, I prefer to play frames here. I'm going to turn, bring my hands to the inside. I figure four my legs here. So I make this pit stop in half guard. I have a strong frame with my left hand and right. Max can put pressure on me, but I can control. If my hand goes to the hip, he's going to cross face me here and put me flat. So I make sure that I'm on my side with a two-handed frame here. From here, my left foot is going to fish one more time. It's going to step over Max's foot. I'm going to bring my right knee to my chest, hip in, and close my guard to finish in the guard position. So that's how we use an elbow escape. Let's see it a couple more times. We'll go from a few different angles too in just a second. But from here, Max has this cross face on. I make that box frame here, right hand on the hip, left hand covers with my left elbow tucked tight to my body. As I bridge, I bring my left knee to the inside here. Now, I use my right foot to fish. One key detail on this, if a guy holds their foot really tight, hold your foot really tight, and I just feel like I can't fish his foot over mine, I'm going to use the point of my left knee on Max's ankle, and what I'm going to do is put this rotation on Max's knee. I'm going to bend his knee to the outside, right? A way that our knees don't really bend. Our knees do a good job at this, but not this side-to-side motion. So, tight, Max. As I push Max's foot to the outside, now my right foot steps over, and his foot naturally wants to come over my thigh. It makes that fishing a lot easier. From here, I use my left elbow to push the knee as I bring my left knee up and tight to my elbow like this. One. Once that knee comes up, I start turning. Again, I can go underhook or frames. I prefer frames to deal with this crossface. I bring my hands tight to my face, and now watch how I turn everything here. Okay? I'll rotate you this way, Max. So notice I am controlling on the frames here. So if Max tries to crossface me, I have control. My left foot's going to step over Max's foot. I bring my right knee to my chest. If Max's knee is closed and tight, I never reach down like this to open. Again, I'm exposed for a crossface. I'm going to use my right elbow here. I bend in, I open. Now as I fish the foot, I have the space to bring my right knee to my elbow. I'm going to point my butt to the right and close my guard, and we finish escape. Okay? One giant mistake that people make on elbow escapes, I see it all the time, is they confuse bridging to their shoulder with a shrimp or a hip escape. Okay? When I bridge to my shoulder, I am not doing this, a standard hip escape that we learn in Jiu Jitsu. Okay? When I bridge to my shoulder, I'm making my frame, I'm doing this. It's a small difference, but it makes a huge difference to escape. I don't push my butt out, I bump, and I get to my side. Why does this make a difference? Well, I'll show you when we go from this angle. Now, here, Max. When Max has this crossface, if I do a full shrimp on my first attempt, and now I start to hip away, sit your butt low. Look how Max has now almost bound my knees together because I've pushed him too low on my hips. And now, for me to try and fish his foot, rotate here, is going to feel almost impossible. And now it's really, really difficult for me to push through, and I would have to just continue on with a hip escape here and try to make a really big motion to escape, which can be tough if my partner has a good mount position and has heavy hips. So instead of bridging and shrimping, I bridge and get to that single shoulder. Again, it just looks like this. Mount with my elbow in, here. Now I'm on my side. I fish, I push, I frame. From my frame, I fish, knee up, I close my guard. Okay? I tell my students here, every time we drill an elbow escape, you need to be able to do this in your sleep. Okay? If you plan to ever compete at jiu-jitsu or take it to any sort of level, your elbow escape has to be something that is so easy you don't have to think about it. Number 3, the high elbow escape. So sometimes as we get better at jiu-jitsu, our partner gets better too. And I'm here with Max, and I make some form of mistake, whether that means Max pins one of my wrists or whatever, and he starts sliding up and high underneath my elbows like this. So I lost the inside elbow position that we need to escape. From here, this is really difficult. And if Max sits his weight down, sit your weight back and down, you can hear how all his weight goes right to my chest now. So this can get really, really tricky, especially when we start adding things like crossface and pins. Now this is a mess. So whenever I see myself get into a high mounted position from the bottom, what I look to do is shimmy my way free. Okay, and how I do that is by taking my right hand and I make a fist and I put it right on Max's belt line. Almost like we're doing this box frame again, but this time it can be more center line. I never reach, I keep it low. And now my left hand is gonna cover that hand, and what I'm gonna start to do is shimmy. I'm gonna walk my head this way. I'm not doing anything other than walking in a straight line as I push Max's hips. So it's gonna look like this. As I walk, 1, 2, 3, I bridge to that single shoulder bridge we talked about just a second ago. My left elbow goes to the inside. My right hand is in this box frame. I fish the foot, push the knee, frame out, and now we escape to our guard using a high elbow escape. So again, Max has me in a high mount situation. Look, we're here. This is starting to be a huge problem. I can't bridge him off. I can't even get to my side here. He's gonna start to dig my arms out and make this a big problem. So I immediately cover, make a fist, cover. I'm gonna shimmy, walking my head straight back. 1, 2, 3, 4. As soon as I get the space, look how my left elbow goes to the inside. Once my left elbow's in, he can't slide up anymore the same way. Now my right foot fishes over. I push the knee. I bring my knee to elbow. Now I come back in. And again, we're right back to our escape we just learned a minute ago, our elbow escape. But now we've done it from a high mount situation. And again, we've escaped what could be game over if somebody gets our arms over our head in high mount. Number 4, the kip. So kipping got super popular over the last few years, and rightfully so. It's a great mount escape, and it's even better if you understand the 3 that we've done before. And we'll talk about that at the end of how we can kind of tie these together. But when we learn how to kip, it opens up a whole new possibility to escape mount, okay? So we'll talk about that now. Max is gonna have me mounted here. When I'm looking to kip Max off, what I wanna do is bring my knees to the inside. So I want my knees underneath on the inside position. How I'm gonna do that is by bridging to separate Max and I's hips. So if you notice here, when I bridge, keep your hips heavy, Max. When I bridge here, our hips stay connected the whole way through. But if I take my elbows to the inside here, and I use my hands like frames, almost like I'm gonna push him. I'm not necessarily bench pressing someone off me, right? We can't do that, especially with a bigger opponent. But if I can create some sort of frame using my elbows to the floor and this structure, I can start to separate Max and I's hips with a big explosion and a catch with my hands like this. And although I can't hang out in that position, that's what's gonna allow me to kip. So come off real quick. So what are we gonna do when we kip? I'm gonna bridge and separate Max and I's hips. And I'm gonna immediately move my body into a rounded concave position, okay? And so what I wanna do when I'm here is bridge to separate and engage my frames. I'm gonna move my body into this rounded position here. I want my feet close together. Some guys like foot over foot, just feet together, almost like my feet and knees are tied together here. And I'm gonna almost knee my partner in his tailbone in this circular motion as I kip and bring my knees to the inside here. You'll feel super silly the first few times you learn how to kip, especially doing solo drills where I'm here and I am kipping to the inside, bringing the knees in a circular motion. So as Max has me mounted, again, my hands are on the inside. I bump, and as I push, I'm bracing off the floor, moving to this concave position and kipping into either single leg X situations, or sometimes we like to kip just into butterfly guard here. What I'm looking to do is sneak a knee to the inside. So again, I'll show you from this angle. We're here. Max has me mounted. My hands are on the hips. As I bump, I separate our hips and I start to bring my knees up to that rounded position. If my head's on the floor, it's going to be really tough to kip, almost impossible. So here, one, hold tight, Max. I shake and I bring my knees through. I can move right into single leg X, or I can bring both knees to the inside and go into full butterfly. Show you from this angle too, just so you can see what our legs are going to be looking to do. So Max, hold tight, please. Max is holding pretty tight, controlling. I'm going to bring my hips up, and I start to kip to the inside position. Again, from here, we can move right into single leg X situation. We can move into double butterfly, whatever we prefer. We're just looking to bring our knees to the inside. Again, using that rounded concave position, like I'm kneeing my partner in the butt as I pump my feet in a circular motion. So that's going to be how we kip someone off of us. Number 5, kipping with a cross face. So we just learned how to kip, and one of the big things we talked about was how we had to move our body into this rounded concave position, right? But if Max is here, and lay down for me, Max, and he wants to move into that concave position, round your body, look how his head and shoulders come off the floor, okay? And you see clearly his shoulders come off the floor. Come back. If I take my hand and I pin Max's chin to the floor, do the same. Bring your shoulders up. He really can't, okay? He can't move into that concave position if his chin is pinned to the floor. And that's what you'll see if somebody's cross-facing you. So if I'm here with Max and he has a real cross-face on me where he's on my chin, what you'll notice here is if I try to kip out of this, I'm never going to be able to make the kip happen. So what I'm going to do first is clear the crossface. My right hand is going to go in Max's armpit. And all I'm going to do as I slide my body down, I push up and I clear the crossface to my forehead. So you can even tell in my voice, he's not on my chin anymore. This crossface isn't pinning me to the floor anymore. And now my right hand can go right back where it was on the inside, and I can start to kip through and free my legs. Some people from this situation like to move, go ahead and crossface, they like to slip the crossface and then move into that box frame with their right hand here, and then start to kip from that situation. That's a great option as well. To be honest, I prefer to just move right into that standard kip. It just works better for me. Again, to each their own. Everybody has their own opinions on how they can kip. That's just what works best for me. But again, we have to start by clearing the crossface. So I need to be able to bring my shoulders off the floor. If I'm here with Max and he's cross-facing me, here, I'm never going to be able to do that because he's on my chin. I take my right hand, I thumb post, push. As I thumb post, I slide my head down. 1. The crossface is now not engaged. He's on my forehead. He's not on my chin anymore. It might be uncomfortable, but I can still turn my head. Now my right hand just comes back to the inside on the hip. As soon as I place it, I bring my feet together, I make that bridge, and I bring my knees to the inside for our kip into single leg X. So this is another way that we can escape mount as our partner gets better, right? He's not just sitting on mount anymore, sitting tall. He's cross-facing me. He's pinning my arms. He's playing the offensive mount against my defensive mount, okay? And so these are the 5 escapes that we need to learn. Putting all of these together is kind of an interesting thing, and I think that's what differentiates, obviously, a white belt from a black belt, is the understanding of when to use what. And an example I'll give you, you know, at blue belt, I remember thinking, I'll never trap and roll anybody. Like trap and roll, you do that as a kid. You don't do that as a black belt. You have to learn all these fancy escapes. And what's interesting is as you move up the ladder, your fundamentals just become better, and that's what you end up using to escape. So a good example of this might be from mount here, where I'm looking to kip, but as I do, Max digs an underhook. Go ahead and dig an underhook. Here, and lock your hands. Oh man, he stopped my kip because he has the hand to the inside. But now, if I trap Max's foot with my left and I pinch my left elbow down, I can now use a trap and roll with the same concepts that we learned from position 1, just with a little bit of a different format, right? I'm looking to kip. He takes my kip away with an underhook. Well, I bear down and I trap and roll over, okay? In the same way, I might be here with an opponent looking to kip, and when I do, he brings everything off the floor, hands and head, look up. Like this, look up off the floor. Yeah. Oh, I can't kip him off, but look, I can get to my side and start to elbow escape. So now I just go back into, again, our day 1 escapes because I get a reaction. If I elicit a reaction out of my partner, I can generally find one escape. And I think really that's what makes somebody good at escaping mount, is the understanding of I can't stop moving. I'm always looking to be on my side. I'm always looking for the inside position. If I don't know what else to do, I'm on my side looking to elbow escape. And then I start bringing all these other actions in, a kip, a trap and roll, depending on what Max gives me. I think that's what helps people escape mount. If you want to see how I like to attack from mount, you can click right here. And if you want our full curriculum where you can learn positions from white belt to black belt in an efficient manner, you can go to coreprobjj.com right here.